So Jacques Nienaber has gotten the head coaching role with the Springboks. It's kind of been the worst kept secret in South African rugby. They did kind of address that in the press conference. I didn't watch the whole thing because it was almost an hour long, but I watched some of the key moments. They talked about wanting to get kind of the whole coaching staff sorted and everyone kind of signed on the dotted line before they made any announcements. But essentially he's going to take over from Alistair Coetzee, essentially, is what Rassie said in the press conference. So Rassie has been director of rugby for the last couple of years, and he never really took the title as coach. He was always the director of rugby, but he was kind of doing the coaching role. He appointed himself to the coaching role whilst remaining the director of rugby. So it's, I guess he was just wearing two hats, and now he just wants to wear one. So Jacques will be doing the what he called the day-to-day operational stuff, whereas Rassie still gets to do the strategic stuff and not just limiting himself to the Springboks. So Rassie, from the sounds of things, will be working with the Sevens guys, the women's rugby, the junior Springboks, and all those other kind of groups, the referees and everything. South African rugby touches, to make sure all the resources are aligned and they're all on the same page. And, he said he knows his own limits, like he wouldn't be a better Sevens coach than the current Sevens coaches, so he's not going to be interfering there, but he'll just be making sure they get what they need. Whereas with the Springboks, he's still going to be there in the coaching box, taking responsibility for any losses and, having direction into the strategy on the actual tactics and whatnot. So, it's kind of a change that's not a huge change. I would still say that Rassie is still going to be, for large parts of it, calling the shots because he is the director of rugby. And these guys have got a long working relationship. I think they know each other for like 30 years and they've been working together in coaching for like 20. So they know what they're doing. They'll know who has to say on what, and I'm sure they'll be able to come to some kind of agreement on the way the team is running. I think that's one of the benefits of having these guys. So Jacques, day-to-day management, operations, preparing the team for tests. Rassie still takes responsibility for the structure, the results, and he'll still be in the coach's box, like I mentioned. So, I don't think it's going to be a huge change. How they do the press conferences will be interesting because you noticed with the All Blacks when they had Steve Hansen and Ian Foster there, Ian Foster would always be there in the press conferences, and from time to time, nobody would virtually ever ask him a question, and Ian Foster. But from time to time, Steve would direct questions to Ian because he had certain aspects of the of the team that he looked after. So you also felt like that was Steve trying to boost Ian's kind of reputation and his spotlight with the media and whatnot in the public. So that's probably partly what Rassie is doing here. Jacques' always been kind of a behind-the-scenes guys from what I know, so he'll actually have to be kind of front of camera from time to time, I would imagine, in the current role. So, I can't imagine it being a huge shift, despite the fact that he is the head coach. He's still under Rassie, and Rassie will be giving him directions. We know from his defensive coaching work and other coaching work that he's done that he's no fool. So I wouldn't expect any huge shifts from the Springboks in terms of their performance levels, strategies, selections, and all that stuff. So kind of steady as she goes, I would say. The press conference that I've seen and the articles that I've read didn't mention the length of the contract, but I would imagine it mirrors Rassie's 4-year one. I did read one on Twitter that said it's 4 years, but I don't know if that was just a guess or if it was actually quoted somewhere. But so they've got their role-specific things. Rassie's kind of strategic level, but also will be there with the Springboks. It seems like that's his primary focus, but also strategic level stuff around South African rugby. Jacques is with the Springboks solely, looking after them from day to day, and then Rassie will be there at test time, and I would imagine other times as well. But other coaching setup, they've got Dion Davids, who was also talked about maybe for the head coaching role, seeing as he left the Kings. He's going to be the forwards coach. Stick remains as one of the coaches. They've got Dan Geeman as the scrum consultant. So, yeah, there's been a few kind of changes, but there's no huge shift in the landscape. So, I would say it's less of a shift than the All Blacks appointing Steve Foster. I think this is more steady than that. So yeah, I expect things to to keep on trucking along. But you guys let me know your thoughts. From what I saw of the press conference, it was still kind of dominated by Rassie. He's got that big personality, but he's very, very keen to make the point that he's not just going to be pushing papers as an administrator. It's still a very kind of hands-on role that he's going to be doing with the South African rugby teams, not limited to just the Springboks. So yeah, he did mention that the fact that was always the plan, but because Alistair Coetzee kind of didn't want to work under him, he didn't say that, but I'm saying that. That he had to kind of step in and do Alistair's job as well. So he's kind of happy to take this higher level role now. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. How do you think this is going to go? Do you likewise think that the Springboks are going to be on the same page, or do you think, Nienaber might have his own ideas and want to kind of shift things up? You guys let me know your thoughts. Talk to you again soon. See you later.